Welcome to the Rockabye Revenue Podcast with me, Abby Watson. I'm a mum of 4 and a business strategist, and I train people to become hypnobirthing teachers. In the last decade, I've built a thriving baby business that grew beyond my wildest dreams. This podcast is for you if you run a business or dream of running a business in the birth and baby industry. You want to change lives whilst making more money. I'm talking about creating sustainable income whilst being present for the people that matter most. I believe for our baby businesses to have the impact we desire, we must be rewarded. On this podcast, expect me to share actionable strategies without the jargon. I've been where you are. I've built a business while raising 4 little ones, and now I'm here to help you turn your passion into profit while creating the life you've always dreamed of. So let's get started. Good morning, lovely one. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well. This morning I have had the worst ever school run. But I'm glad I am now in the confines of my lovely office, and my number one job today is to speak to you about something very important. We're going to talk about when you start something, whether it's something new within your business or whether it's starting your business for the first time, how actually taking action with whatever you have got is so much more powerful than waiting for perfection. And if we wait for perfection, we're basically missing out on actually generating income right now. And I tell you what reminded me of this. Somebody recently got in touch who had done what was my expansion course about 7 years ago. So ultimately, my expansion course is my hypnobirthing teacher training, but for already trained hypnobirthing teachers, i.e. they have trained elsewhere, they feel perhaps a little dissatisfied with what they have got to teach, maybe a little bit underprepared, or maybe even restricted by the original training that they had. So they want to retrain, they want to get more tools, they want to make their courses more engaging, and that is what I call my expansion course. I'm not training them to teach from scratch, I am expanding their skills and expanding the amount of resources and teaching materials they've got available to them, and of course expanding their support. So that's what I call my expansion course these days. And when this person, this lovely lady, got in touch with me and she told me that she'd done my training, 7 years ago, it made me think about the first ever version of that training. Because as much as I've been running my training school for the last nearly 6 years, actually the history of it goes back further. And actually, before I properly started my training school, I offered what I called at the time a resource bundle. And it cost about £350, and it was solely marketed to already trained hypnobirthing teachers. I wasn't training people from scratch at that point. And what it offered was tips on how to make their course more interactive, more them, how to give their clients the best possible experience. Plus it included some fabulous fresh resources that they could use with their clients. So ultimately, that was the first ever version of what I now offer. And it made me think back to that and how that looked. And ultimately, what that looked like was a link to a Dropbox folder full of stuff, full of resources, and a link to a private Vimeo. I mean, gosh, does anybody even use Vimeo these days? A private Vimeo page with some videos that I'd recorded on there. That's what the resource bundle consisted of. And like I said at the time, I charged about £350 for that. And I remember putting that together and thinking, oh my gosh, will anyone buy this? Will anybody feel like this will be useful? And I couldn't believe the amount of hypnobirthing teachers that bit my hand off to have that. You know, I sold about, at the time it was probably about 60 of those bundles. And quite honestly, back then, I felt like, oh my gosh, it's a pot of gold. Like, I was selling this really passive product as I was a hypnobirthing teacher. You know, that was a similar price to my one-to-one hypnobirthing course. Yet it was there, it was already done. And I didn't have to, you know, deliver anything personally for these people because it was already, you know, recorded, it was already produced. So it felt blooming incredible. Now, the biggest part of like me selling that was that I had a really thriving Facebook group at the time where I'd been nurturing and offering advice, you know, for a long time before. So I was already known in the industry. But the reason that I'm talking about this today is I went back to look at that Dropbox file and that Vimeo page, and oh my gosh, I wanted to cringe. You know, it felt so basic. It felt so amateur compared to what I give now. You know, now I've invested in better technology. That means that the online course is more organised. It's, you know, able to pause wherever they are and, you know, all that. The resources have been much more upgraded and they are about to improve even more. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I sold this to around 60 people. How cringe. And then actually I thought to myself, blooming good on me. Good on me that I didn't wait until I could invest in amazing technology. That I didn't wait until my resources were as polished as they are now. Because, oh my gosh, if I had, I would have missed out on all that money. You know, I can't do the maths, but 60 times £350, perhaps you can do the maths. But I would have missed out on that. But beyond that, all those hypnobirthing teachers that didn't think it was amateur, you know, and actually hugely benefited from the resources and the advice, were able to get that when they needed it. They didn't need to wait 3 years for me to be in a position where I felt like things were perfect enough. They were able to benefit from it right there and then. And I know that that original version of my expansion course, what was known as the bundle, did impact so many other hypnobirthing teachers. It did enhance their courses. It did make their teaching even better. And it did lead to them having a more successful business. So imagine if I had have waited. Imagine if I'd have waited for perfection. Imagine if I'd have waited till I felt, in inverted commas, ready, you know? So I look back and I think, well done, blooming Abby Watson of, 7 years ago, for taking the plunge despite it not looking sophisticated, without it looking perfect, with it simply being copy and pasting a link, you know? And this is my message for you today. Whatever that thing is that you are wanting to do, or know you've got a blooming great idea for, And maybe you're thinking, oh, but I'm not quite ready yet, or I need to wait until I've got more money to invest in X, Y, Z to make it really, really good. That holding off, that procrastination might actually be costing you so much money. And it might be also stopping the people that need your thing, your ideas, your support, whatever it may be, benefiting from it right now. Not in 2 years when you feel like you can put it together, as curated as possible. They can benefit from it right now. And yeah, I'm talking to you people too that are dreaming about creating a business. But you feel like, oh my gosh, if I started a business, I don't think I'd have the money to invest in a glossy website right away. Well, lovely one, my advice to you is to start with whatever you've got. Your first version is not your final version. The perfecting, the adding, the curating it more wonderfully can come with time. If you are someone that is so passionate about supporting others to have a great birth, perhaps becoming a hypnobirthing teacher might be the right path for you. From the 18th of May, I'm offering a completely free training that takes place over 3 sessions of 1 hour, where you can find out whether teaching hypnobirthing is for you. You will learn in-demand skills, you will explore how to make money as a hypnobirthing teacher, how to be great at what you do in this completely free training. To enroll, all you need to do is go to the link in the show notes or come over to my Instagram and DM me the word free training. I hope to see you there. Whatever you are creating, whether it's a business from scratch or whether it's another arm of your business, can be an evolution. Your first version does not need to be your final version. So please take this message in the way that it was intended today. That I get it. Sometimes we feel like if we are getting our things into the world, it must be the best ever version for us to feel confident selling it. But please learn from my example. Take from my story that actually the first ever version of what I sell these days, my training, was far from perfect, was a tiny drop in the ocean compared to what I now offer. But I don't regret offering it in that way. And I tell you what, do you know what else it makes me think? If I hadn't have got that imperfect bundle out there back in 2018, I'm not sure I'd have ever created my training school, because perhaps the task would have felt too big. So actually, my earlier imperfect version of it, using what I could access at the time, meant that when it came to setting up my training school, it was a much easier job. It got the wheels turning. It got me going with it. And my goodness, I am so grateful for that. So whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing, whether it's creating your own digital course, whether it's starting your own pregnancy retreats, whether it's doing your own group courses, or whether it's offering something new. Maybe you dream of mentoring others in your industry. Maybe you dream of writing a book and you're going to do it, but you're always like, oh, but I need to wait for this and that. and I need to wait for clarity, and I need to wait for spare time and spare money. Get started with it now. There are people out there that need your first version. There are people out there that need whatever you feel is not perfect enough. They can benefit from it right now. Everything can be a work in progress. And you never know where it might go. Now, as always, I love to hear if anything from the podcast resonated with you. So if today's episode or any of the other episodes in this podcast has resonated, please come over to my Instagram at loveyourbirth_training and let me know what clicked for you. And as always, I really, really appreciate it if you could take the time to leave a 5-star review, because it helps the podcast reach more and more people. And again, thank you so much for being one of the lovely listeners to this podcast. It makes the rushing about, setting up my mic and getting on totally worth it. So have a lovely rest of your week, and I shall speak to you soon. Take care and keep on changing lives. Bye. Thank you for listening to Rockabye Revenue. I hope this episode has left you with some fresh ideas and bundles of motivation. If you enjoyed this episode, do make sure you click subscribe so you never miss an installment. And if you found this episode useful, I'd love you forever if you leave a 5-star review, helping this podcast reach the ears of more of the helpers in this world. And remember, keep changing lives. See you next time.